All right, guys, so we're back. We are going to make a sourdough oatmeal cream pie recipe, but since Thanksgiving is tomorrow, we're going to add pumpkin. I hope that these turn out right. We already made our 1 cup of brown butter that is in the Pampered Chef mixer. And if you need to know how to make brown butter, follow my other video and you will see how to do that. I'm using the paddle extension. The one thing I like about the paddle extension with Pampered Chef is it's got this scraper on the side. And so you can see, like, it will scrape the side of the bowl so that you don't have to keep stopping to use your own spatula and take this off and scrape it down. This is gonna do that for you. So you put that on, you flip it to the side, and we are going to, the brown butter is cooling, so we can add things to allow it to mix. You don't want to add anything when it's too hot. If you add it when it's too hot, it changes the molecularity. So I'm going to talk about the recipe while that's cooling. And I am going to demonstrate how to use the Pampered Chef can opener on the pumpkin puree. So it's actually pretty neat. It's got like this round thing and then that, and then the little thing to actually be able to attach it. So you just push it up to it straight on and you just start twisting. It grabs it itself and then you just twist all the way around. You'll feel a pop release right there. When you've gone all the way around, you turn it back the other way to release it. And then it literally, that one just popped right off. But you could use this itty bitty little clamp to pull it off if it like sticks to it. But that one did not. It was good. All right. So I am kind of winging this recipe. I'm going to try to add 1 cup of pumpkin to the recipe. Now, if for some reason I feel like it's like too wet, I might add some extra flour to counteract the moisture in the pumpkin. So that's 1 cup. Nope, it doesn't look like a whole lot, but that's it. Just 1 cup. And that whole can, gotta figure out what to do with that. All right, I'm gonna set that aside. Okay, so my plan is the whole recipe. We add the brown sugar, we add a 1/2 cup of granulated sugar, we add 1 cup of packed brown sugar, and then we add 2 eggs that I've already cracked, and a 1/2 cup of discard. And what discard is it's unfed sourdough starter. So if you're in the sourdough world, you know what that is. If you do not have sourdough discard, I would recommend just replacing possibly it with a little bit of extra flour and maybe milk. But if you don't do dairy, heck, just maybe the pumpkin puree. Replace the 1/2 sourdough discard just with pumpkin puree, and you wouldn't have to add anything extra. I don't know. This is not a foolproof recipe. This is just what I'm doing, and I guess time will tell on whether or not it turns out or not. So those are the ingredients, and if you need deactivated, if just sourdough discard just means deactivated sourdough. The starter is not fed. So you did not feed it flour to make it grow and get active. This has been sitting in your refrigerator and now it looks like soup, okay? We're also gonna be using cinnamon, baking powder, baking soda, salt. I make my own vanilla extract. You just take vanilla beans, shove them into a jar, fill it up with vodka, wait a year, and then you've got pure vanilla extract. Obviously, imitation or whatever you buy from the store is fine. We've got 2 cups of Italian flour. 000 is what I use. I don't use anything enriched and I don't use anything bleached. And then we have 3 cups of oats. I have made this with 1 minute oats. I've made this with steel cut oats. They both work beautifully. It just depends on, do you want a thicker oat in your cookie, or do you want a thinner oat? So this part of the recipe is going to be making the oatmeal cream pies, the cookies on both sides. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're going to start our brown butter mixture. Feel how hot that is. Still pretty warm. All right, so there's a lever on the back. I should plug it in. Power is good. Power is good. Turn on. And there are multiple settings on the Pampered Chef mixer. There's custom, whip, cream, mix, beat, and knead. We're going to be using the mix with the paddle, and it times it for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to lift this up. I'm going to add in my brown sugar. Ooh. I'm going to add in my granulated sugar. And I'm going to go ahead and close this and press the button. And there she goes. So I add the sugars when the melted brown sugar is still pretty warm, because I like to melt my sugars all the way down so that there's no granulation to them at all. The nice thing that I like about the Pampered Chef mixer is it starts slower, so it incorporates everything, and then it'll speed up. There's a really neat one for kneading when it comes to bread, so you can throw your doughs in there and literally for 8 minutes walk away, and it will knead it for you, and then you just come back, take it out, and then see how it just picked up in speed. And then of course you can add everything in through the side of it. So I'm going to add all my wet ingredients. I'm actually going to pause it, lift it, because that's just too hard. I'm afraid I'm going to scrape it onto my counter. Now the ultimate time when you pause it, it saves the time of how long it's actually been mixing, which is actually really nice. You can always add more time. There's a little timer button on the side that looks like a clock where you can actually adjust the time. And then I'm also going to add in my discard at this point. So you can see super runny, not active. Active looks thick, pancake batter, bubbly. So that's deactivated. All right, so I'm going to put it back down. I'll turn it back on. I'm going to let that mix for a while. So 2 teaspoons of vanilla. I'll be honest, I like to measure with my heart. I usually pour in extra, but since I'm doing a video, I'll be a good girl. Some things are so easy to make, guys, but they are time consuming. Got to plan a year in advance. All right, so while that's mixing, let's take our flour and let's go ahead and add 1 teaspoon of baking soda. This is my 1/2 teaspoon. Yeah, I'll have her go again. And then a half a teaspoon of baking powder. One teaspoon of salt. We do not do iodine. I like Redmond's, but I'm actually out at the moment. We also use Celtic sea salt, as long as there's no iodine in it. And then 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. So it's more like 4 of these, because I'm using a half right now. And I'll be honest, I love cinnamon, so if there's some extra, we are okay with that. Measure with your heart. All right, throwing in the 2 eggs. Farm fresh eggs, of course. All right, so now we got our dry ingredients. That is locked and ready to go. I'm just double checking my recipe because I don't want to forget anything. So at this point, this has been going for a little while. I'm going to pause it, lift it, and I'm going to add in the oats last. So I'm going to add in all my flour. Okay. Flour and all the powders are in. I'm going to bring her back down. Okay, I'm going to put it back on the beat. Nope, I want to do it mix. Never mind. All right. Okay, we're mixing. So it's going to start out slow so that it doesn't throw your flour all over the place. And then now I can start cleaning up my kitchen because, you know, who wants a mess? And we're almost done. So while that mixes, you can put everything away. And that's looking pretty good. I'm going to start adding in the oats. All right, so this is the part where I'm going to decide if it's too thick or too thin, and whether or not I want to add in any extra flour, or if I want to add in some extra oats because I added in that 1 cup of pumpkin. I think it's fine. I would almost be willing to like test it. But I think I'm going to add in just a little bit more oats. Maybe 1/8 of a cup, 1/4 of a cup more. All right, I think she's good. So I'm going to pull this up, take the paddle off. Clean the paddle. And I'll take it off and I'll show you what it looks like. You definitely do not want it to be runny. You want it to be almost like a thicker cookie dough. All right, take this off. You just pull it to the side, pull it off. And let me see if you can see this. Okay. So, yeah, you really don't have to scrape down any sides. The mixer did a good job. So you can see, like, it pretty much sticks, unless it's real heavy, sticks to the dough. That's great. This is actually kind of perfect. So I don't know how much of a pumpkin flavor these will have. I guess that we'll try them, and if I can't tell that they're pumpkin anything, I'll add more pumpkin next time and maybe change up the recipe a little bit. But what we're gonna do is I will come back for the baking phase of putting these on the baking sheets and showing you the second part of the baking recipe. We'll be back. All right, guys, so we're gonna go ahead and make the oatmeal cookies. I have my pan with my silicone mat. The reason why I use a silicone mat is because I don't like having to spray my pan with all kinds of different kinds of oils. Plus those oils are gonna soak into your cookies. To each your own. If that's what you have and that's what you wanna do so it doesn't stick, go for it. I like the silicone mats. Everything I put down on it, it does not stick. This is not Pampered Chef. I literally bought this on Amazon. Does Pampered Chef have certain kinds of pans that don't allow sticking? Absolutely. But you know what? Sometimes when you sell something, you can't just afford everything all at once. So I'm going to use what I still have. So use what you've got. Cookie scoop. Do you need a cookie scoop? No, not necessarily. This is 3 tablespoons. I prefer the ones that you can click like that. I've tried the ones where you have the clicker on the side and it hurts your fingers. And when you're making a bunch of cookies, you definitely don't want to do that. But this is what I'm going to be using. 3 tablespoons makes a big cookie. I prefer this recipe with the 2 tablespoon ones, or maybe like 1.5, to make a little bit smaller of a cookie. But it's Thanksgiving and go big or go home, right? So I always try to make them the same size. So I flatten out on the side of my bowl and I lay them out. And so, like I was saying, the kind of consistency is about that size, that spacing. I do like the silicone mat because it does have the circles. Now, I will say these are going to flatten. They're going to space out. So you do not want to go right beside it. You want to go here and then here, okay? So you can probably get 9 cookies per baking sheet by the time they flatten out. If you put them too close together, they'll just run together, and then you got to kind of cut them off of each other, which just doesn't make for a real circle cookie. It makes more like a square, but you know, you do you. You know what time you got. These 3-ounce cookies, if I remember right, I'll put the recipe down below. But I am pretty sure that it takes 15 minutes for these to bake out. What you want is you want to see like a golden crust around the edges, and then they're done, take them out, leave them on the pan to cool down. They'll continue baking all the way through. I will double check that. But what we'll do is I'll come back and I'll show you the final product, and then I will show you how to assemble the cookie by making the filling, the icing that goes in between for the cream pies. All right, so I just pulled these out of the oven. I will say that they're a little puffier. Usually they flatten out a little bit more, but maybe that's the pumpkin in them with a little bit of extra oats. So a lot of the times though, when you take a cookie out and you're gonna let it stay on the hot pan to continue to kind of keep cooking, they normally do kind of flatten out. So I just wanted to give this video for reference, and then we'll come back once they've cooled down enough. We'll get them on the cookie sheets to cool all the way down. All right, guys, so pretty easy. They've started to cool down. You can see they're pretty flat on the bottom. I will say these stayed on the thicker side compared to when I make the recipe without the pumpkin. So I'm actually kind of, they're like, by the time you put 2 of these together, you know, because you're going to put that cream filling in the middle, that's going to be a really thick cookie. So, but it'll still taste amazing. Do you see how clean? Like, guys, like, clean. And I didn't have to spray nothing on that. I love the silicone mats. Don't come at me with microplastics and stuff. Trust me, I've been doing my research. I understand that it is a possibility when it comes to anything, but so is all the other stuff that we're spraying onto the you know, stuff to get it to not stick. You know, it's like, you know, let's fix one thing at a time. Obviously, if you don't want to use a silicone mat, don't use a silicone mat. You know, spray whatever you need. Or if you have, you know, I believe that Pampered Chef makes a non-stick cookie sheet that you could also use without having to use the spray or the silicone mat. It is on my list, and I will do some research on it, and I'll come back and let you guys know how it goes. But for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to let these completely cool down, and then I'll come back once we make the icing. All right, so for this video, we're going to make the whipped icing that goes in between the oatmeal cream pies. So I will say I made the 3-ounce oatmeal cookies. These I did not press down, and you can see how thick those are. And then these ones, I pressed them down, so you can obviously see the diameter changed and the thickness changed. So if you're making an oatmeal cream pie where you want to put the filling in the center and put 2 cookies back to back, like that's a really thick cookie to try to bite into. So I think that with these really thick ones, I'm just going to put icing on top, and it'll be a smaller cookie. With the thinner ones, I'm going to put the icing in the middle and make it more like an oatmeal cream pie. Both of these cookies I baked at 350 for 18 minutes and pulled them out. And they both baked beautifully. They got done easy. So the inside filling is a 1/2 cup of butter at room temperature. So don't put it in the microwave. You cannot melt this butter. If you melt the butter, it changes the consistency. For my Pampered Chef mixer, I'm going to do a whipped icing instead of a creamed icing. There is a whip setting on this and a cream setting on this. If you do whipped, you're going to use the whisk attachment. If you do the cream, you're going to use the paddle attachment. The paddle attachment was the same attachment that I made the other cookies with. So you put these on. You just line up. There it is. There we go. All right. Okay. So the butter's in there. I'm going to sit this down and I'm going to put it on whip. And we're going to add 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla. And I do like the measurements on this, so you don't have to use multiple. Like normally, if I would use my individual measuring spoons, I'd have to use, you know, 2 different ones. One for the teaspoon, the other one for the half. Or you would have to use 3 to get of the 1/2 teaspoons to get the 1.5. Simple math. Just more stuff to dirty. But I can also use the exact same one and now change it to a tablespoon, and now I can use my heavy whipping cream. So you use 1 tablespoon of heavy whipping cream, 1.5 teaspoons of vanilla, 1 stick of butter, and 2 cups of powdered sugar. And that's it. And then I'm going to make the machine do the rest of the work. Otherwise, you don't have to have, you know, a big old machine to make this. You can use a hand mixer. Nothing wrong with that. All right, so I'm going to tell it to whip. Throw it all in. And in 3 minutes, it'll tell me it's done. Easy peasy, we'll come back. Oh, I made it dirty. I don't like dirty things. All right, so she's almost done. And slow down. I'll pop her up. So one of the things that I did do halfway through is I went in there and used my spatula to kind of scrape down the sides. I just wanted to make sure that I got everything in here. Now this is definitely a little bit thicker of a buttercream. But it will work. Because it's such a thick cookie, we don't do a ton There we go. Grab another one, piece them together. And there you have a gigantic homemade oatmeal cream pie. Now, you can obviously do the others like I had mentioned. If you don't want like one huge cookie, you can just, that's way too much. You can just put the icing just on top. And you have half of an oatmeal cream pie, which honestly, guys, is just as good. And there you go. 2 different cookies. Happy Thanksgiving.